I'll go 45, baby. I'm taking the belts. WrestleMania.
Thank you for being a pal.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pen Tool Pals, a friendly podcast for graphic designers. I'm Canvas Cam with Canvas Design Company.
I'm Cole from Cole F Design. Thanks so much for joining us. We got week 5 here, Cam. Super
Week
fun doing
5.
this each week with you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining us.
Hell yeah. It's been cool. You know, we spent like 2 months like putting this podcast together before we actually like pulled the trigger. We got the logos down. We made sure we wanted to go in the right direction. And so far, I think we're killing it. These last 5 weeks have been so much fun.
It's not about quantity, it's about quality. So a couple weeks back, we had a super cool thing happen where a pal of the pod reached out to us specifically and shot us just some sketches out of the blue. They were super cool and all geared towards Pen Tool Pals, some great like concept sketches, and
Amazing.
We were just super stoked on it, right? Yeah. And so what we thought of is like, this is such a cool idea. Why don't we get more people involved? We want to see what everyone is creating and want to get people involved with the podcast and see what you guys can come up with as well. So Pal of the Week was born out of the idea that we want to get more people involved with the podcast. Our honorary Pal of the Pod is going to be Judd Lively, the man who started it all.
Our first Pal of the Week, Judd Lively. Thank you for giving us the idea of doing it. And you didn't even mean to. You were just like, hey, on my lunch break, I just threw together some concept art and it was so good. And it gave us so many ideas. One, I was like, man, I wish I was as good as this guy. But two, it created this thing that, you know, I think is going to be really helpful for the podcast. So Judd, we just want to say thank you.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Thank you for being a pal. You're our honorary first Pal of the Week.
Yeah, big thank you.
This isn't a competition. We're not just posting the best artwork from people. We want this podcast to feel inclusive. So, you know, we're showcasing everybody. You don't have to be, an experienced artist. You could be a beginner artist. We're posting everybody.
This is super fun for us. We just want to see what you guys come up with and create because it's already cool following a bunch of cool artists and seeing what you come up with on a day-to-day basis. So this is all about getting people involved. It's about seeing cool artwork, creating cool things, and seeing what you got. Judd, thank you so much for joining us and for coming up with these awesome ideas. I mean, really just sparked a new thing for us that we're really excited about, and Pen Tool Pals is hopefully here to stay.
So Cole, what are we talking about this week, my man?
I think a lot of times when you propose artwork to a client, you're really hoping, crossing your fingers, that they're going to like one thing, right? But for some reason, it's not always working out that way, right? They might choose options 1, 2, 3 that you didn't exactly like the best. And the biggest thing as an artist is, one, how to persuade correctly. And when I say persuasion, I mean like talking through the client brief with your client, so that way you're always creating the best work. There's also scenarios where you create artwork and maybe in some situations your client came up with a concept first that you're not really stoked about, right? And how do you get them into wanting to create something that you're a little bit more excited about, and at the end result making some much better art that your client is going to be way happier with, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
So how do you persuade your clients, and like how has that kind of conversation work for you, Cam?
Let me tell you, Cole. It is not not unknown in my studio area to where I'm sitting here with a list full of notes that I'm just trying to piece together in my head. Complex, damn near impossible idea. And it is my job to say, hey, we got to cut this idea down. And sometimes like they're so set in their ways that it's like, no, that's exactly what I want. I'm like, yo, you want a butterfly swirling in a lake of fire surrounded by kittens. And I'm just like, that's kind of impossible.
Right.
And then I want some type around it saying like all's well that ends kittens. And just like, it's just, so a part of my job, and I think even with the job I'm currently working on, the design that I was showing last week, the Golden Gate Bridge and all that stuff, I had to kind of, cut the fat off of that design in a sense. And I had
Even
to
more
put it in
so, even more so to what
even
you
more
showed.
so. It's already a big design.
Yeah.
To see the original ideas and the notes on that thing, it was, I had to kind of tell the client like, hey, this is a cool design. I like where it's going. We have to find a way that all of this makes sense, because the design at the end of the day has to make sense. We get our blinders on too easily sometimes, where it's like, even Cole, you and I, we share ideas back and forth because we get our goggles on and all we can see is what's in front of us, but we have to keep in mind what other people are going to see. And so, I could have this crazy complicated idea, but as an artist, I am obligated to get a more realistic view, so that the people who are buying it and the people who are seeing it and go, oh, I want to buy that. We have to create something that's attractive, for people to buy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the money spent on this design is pointless.
Sometimes, clients think one thing, and it's kind of up to us to do some mind reading and also like get into a mutual contract of something that we're going to be excited about and they're going to be excited about. And at the end of the day, we're the ones creating the artwork. So if we're not excited about something, like, it usually shows in your work, right?
For sure.
We'll put out our first work, which I always think in my head is the best work.
Yeah.
It just seems to happen that way, right? And then from each round of changes that the client will have for you, that takes away from the initial thought, starts to not make it as good, right? But our goal as an artist is to talk through those things with your client, so that way you're not muddying the design as the process goes on. And that's not a bad thing, right? You want to be vocal each time, talking it through and say like, hey, maybe we don't do this and why. Don't just say, I don't like that, because it's never going to hit well. And I don't think that you're really going to get far with them, because they're going to put their foot down and say like, hey, that's what I want. When someone has changes for you, it's really about talking them through their ideas and having that open line of communication with them, because you're able to tell them, hey, I'm not sure if this is the best direction to go into because of why, right? And if you're going to tell them why that's not a good idea, then you can start to persuade them. And this is kind of why we're talking about the art of persuasion, as you're able to persuade into a direction that you think that the design is going to turn out the best, not only for you, but for the client as well. And you're going to continually be more and more excited about the end product. You want to be proud of it and post it on your Instagram page. For sure. And, if you just go straight into telling the client that their ideas, if you phrase it to where it's like, hey, that's a bad idea, you're basically hitting a brick wall, because now this person is going to feel like, well, this artist thinks my idea is bad. That means this whole design is bad. And that's what you don't want. I've had plenty of people go in my earlier days, before I knew how to talk to people, essentially. This is also a big section. This is a big section of you learn how to communicate with people, and it's taken me a long time to get to this point. There's been a bunch of designs to where I've spent hours and hours doing it, but because I basically told them the whole idea was a bad idea, that's what they heard, we had to go back to the drawing board. And back then I wasn't secure enough to be asking for more money. That's why, my entire design process is locked in to where it's like, I don't even get started until the idea is there and I feel confident enough in doing it. Absolutely. And I think that's also comes to a point of persuasion. That also comes to a point of transparency. And like, I'm like you, I hate confrontation. I hate unhappy clients. It's literally the worst thing. Like, I want everyone to be super stoked. So making sure that like everyone knows on both sides, like how this transaction is going to take place and work through like every step of the way, is what it's really all about, and how everyone's going to be happier at the end of the day. If we were to wrap this up in a sentence from each of us, right? The real point we're trying to get across is communication, transparency. If your client comes to you and has an idea that you're not really excited about, work with them, talk to them, be transparent through your process, and say reasons why you think that you're going to make a better design versus just fighting them over it in the first place. And then also be collaborative. If your client has some bad ideas and you're not really stoked about it, come up with better ones and then talk them through it.
All right, cool. So how was your week?
It was good, Cam. Thanks for asking. I got some good, fun clients in the cooker, and this one came towards me with some pretty awesome ideas. He wanted more of a design bundle, which is always fun to see how I'm able to come up with multiple ideas, similar to what we showed last week with the HIC line. It's really about coming up with a bunch of ideas, all pertaining to the same kind of situation. This one being fishing, salmon fishing in specific. So we're not done yet. These are still in progress designs.
Dude, that's awesome.
Thank you. So we got all of these are going to be salmon related, and it really was just coming up with different ways to show them. And the client also had some really good ideas here. So a lot of these ideas were pretty close to what he wanted. But something like this was all on me. He was super stoked on this graphic where there's some changes to it, with verbiage and some possible add-ons. Again, he had some really cool ideas, very specific to the graphic. This was a really popular fishing spot. So making it just a really badass badge is always a fun thing for me. Camping graphic.
Love it.
Clean lockups. He wasn't stoked on this one. It's not going to move forward with, and he had this pretty outlandish idea with
nice
July 4th kind of patriotic salmon. That's I
would say, kind of hick salmon.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that, right?
Leave it at that.
And a cool badge lockup. Wasn't super salmon related, so this one I think was going to be cut as well. But
gotcha. Looks pretty dope though.
And that's it for now. But there's some more.
Dude, great job.
Thank you.
So finished up this logo this week for Inner Aesthetics. This girl Sarah came to me based off of a recommendation from an older client that I had worked with last year. Completely different style than I'm used to.
This turned out super cool.
Yeah, and I had kind of had to stretch my legs for this. We kept on going back and forth with different styles that she liked and she wanted to see. She didn't want to go with the bold line look, and that was a little tough for me to kind of comprehend. You get so set in your ways sometimes. Put together a little lockups and different lockups and badges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we jumped on a call and I showed her this board. And we had some very small little minor things. And I ended up just doing different versions that'll work best on black and white background. My whole mantra is giving more than what they had asked for. So if doing an inverted version for them to use makes them happy, then so be it. And then lastly, I just put it on an orange background. But my goal was to get it done before my birthday. And, usually my birthday lands on WrestleMania, but today's WrestleMania, baby. Bust out a White Claw.
Well, that just about wraps up week 5. Thanks again for tuning in, joining us. Make sure you hit the like button and share this video with your friends, new designers, people who want to know a bit more about how to deal with clients, talk about graphic designs, new projects, whatever it may be.
So this week we don't have any questions, and we realize we're a newer podcast. No one wants to be the first and only person asking a question. But hey, feel free. We're going to do this thing every week. We're going to answer the questions that you guys have.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're here to help. So don't be shy. Throw a question into our poll. We're going to put it into the story section of our page. We're also going to have a free open forum in our comments. So let us know what you want to hear. Well, that just about wraps up week 5. And then we can just roll into all your shit.
Okay. I'll go week 5. Baby. I'm taking the belt. WrestleMania. Thank you for being a pal.